So get this. Important. Haaretz, that's the Israeli newspaper, definitively debunked the iconic horror stories from October 7th. 40 babies burned, 40 beheaded babies, babies burned in oven, a pregnant woman's stomach open and her fetus removed, children bound together and burned, and pregnant hostage giving birth. Haaretz says that only one baby was killed on October 7th. And there's the headline. By the way, here's the headline. This is the original headline that got changed. The original headline said the Hamas, by the way, what did you expect me to believe, that they would lie to us to justify a full ethnic cleansing? That doesn't sound like the Israel I know.
The Israel I've been told I know.
The Hamas massacre led to the spread of horror stories, not all of which happened in reality. The truce is hard enough. The terrorists who infiltrated Israel committed crimes against humanity and brutally murdered masses, along with the harsh descriptions. False testimonies were also heard, in the distribution of which Zaka volunteer, IDF officers, the president of the Salvation Union, and Sarah Netanyahu participated. They all participated in false testimonies. They all participated, yes. Any word on the massacre they did do?
Like what?
Because so far I've only heard this made up shit.
Yeah, they said one baby was shot. Okay,
and by the way, good luck telling that to the two bald British guys that gave Jackson Hinkle all that grief. That's right, they were both bald. It's just that one of them wore a wig so obvious it could be seen from orbit.
If a guy's wearing a wig telling me, like, call me a liar, I'm
nothing
like,
says you're full of shit more than wearing a rug, telling someone else they're a liar.
Out of the gate.
Now, a lot of people know this, that they made up a lot of those horror stories, but a lot of people don't know that the word Hamas in Hebrew actually translates to American attack helicopter.
It does? I'm gullible.
Well, if they said Hamas did it, it's probably an American attack helicopter.
Oh, I thought it meant carpet bombing. You probably think carpet bombing's real.
It all goes through a lawyer.
Oh.
And you know how honest lawyers are.
It goes through a lawyer and what? He goes, what happens?
You know who else has a lawyer? John Gotti.
Walk me through the process of they go through a lawyer, then they do it anyway. And the lawyer for who?
So here's the headline that was updated. The headline updated says Hamas committed documented atrocities, but a few false stories feed the deniers. This is called walking your steps back while covering your tracks in the sand. That's what this is.
Hey, come on. It helps Putin when we lie. And
this is the internet. This is the press's version of Homer Simpson backing into that hedge bush. This is the equivalent of that.
Deniers of what now, though? Because the things they were denying are the things you said didn't happen.
That's right.
Again, here at the Jimmy Dore show, I remember I was here. The guys from Due Dissonance were on. The two Jewish gentlemen from Due Dissonance. And the guy said, hey, shooting a baby, that's still really bad. You don't have to make it a beheading. I'm still mad if you shot a baby.
Politicians, army officers, search and rescue volunteers, and social media activists have all provided testimonies about Hamas atrocities on October 7th. By the way, really? So why don't you just say bookies, pimps, and whores also provided testimony? Because when you say politicians, army officers, and social media activists, that's what I hear in my head.
Yeah, right.
I'm hearing bookies, pimps, and criminals.
Social media
activists, politicians.
Wait, so people that weren't there? Because that's what I read when I hear social media activists.
Yeah, people who weren't there. So bookies, pimps, and contract killers all gave testimony.
Well,
most of them are supported by extensive evidence, but a few have been proved untrue, providing ammunition to deniers of the historic massacre.
What are the extensive evidence ones? I'm not saying they don't exist, but I'd like to know them.
So the point was supposed to be to provide ammunition to Israeli apologists to spread propaganda justifying Israel's mass killings of Palestinians. That was supposed to be the point.
Well, it's a little late to do that after all your spokespeople I watched on Western news outlets saying, yeah, it's going to be a lot of civilian deaths like Dresden. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
You already said you're going to do this. So honestly, I have no idea what's true from social media. I have the words of your own government saying what you're going to do. It didn't sound good.
Doesn't sound good. They keep warning us about all the stuff they're going to do.
And war's hard. Oh, I know they put a siege on 2 million people because of that attack.
Siege warfare, which is a war crime.
Putin never did anything like that.
Nope. Okay. According to a reporter for I-24 News, an army commander told her that at least 40 babies' heads had been killed, some of them beheaded. The channel said reports of the atrocities and the estimated numbers are based on testimonies by officers who removed bodies from Gaza border communities. Okay. So one reporter heard something from an army commander, and that's how this became fact.
And that's how we got the Bible.
By the way, what exactly is the ratio of human value here? How many Palestinian babies will you have to behead to make up for one of yours?
10,001. I think it was pretty clear.
How many Palestinian lives equal one Zionist life?
10,000.
What's the exchange rate these days? Is it on par with the Canadian dollar?
Canadians can have them for free once we kick them out of the country. It's an unusual crypto.
It said these accounts were collected during the IDF spokesperson's unit's tour for foreign correspondents 4 days into the war. The station added similar reports were repeated in testimonies by Zaka personnel. Zaka is the ultra-Orthodox Jewish organization whose members retrieve bodies after terror attacks.
So imagine Jen Psaki without the integrity.
Yes. Our correspondents brought in the voices from the field. We interviewed the officers and reported from the scene. Surrounded by atrocities from the vicious attack, we always act to ensure the accuracy of the details and add clarifications and corrections. Okay. The report above was later quoted on social media, often referenced as dozens of beheaded babies. Though sometimes it was burnt babies or hanged babies.
There's Ben Shapiro posting a leg of lamb and saying it was a baby.
For example, the Foreign Ministry published an account by Colonel Golan Vak from the Home Front Command, who said that in one house he found the bodies of 8 burnt babies.
Later we realized they were Palestinian babies, so okay, that one is on us.
The Twitter account of the Prime Minister's office also referred to the murder of infants and showed very graphic pictures. That means Benjamin Netanyahu's office.
Oh, he's trustworthy.
Yeah.
Oh, of course I would believe him.
According to the tweet, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu showed the pictures to U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken.
Probably showed a picture of his dick, too.
Last week, Ishay Cohen, a journalist for the ultra-Orthodox website Kicker Hashababat, interviewed Lieutenant Colonel Yaron Buskila of the Israel Defense Forces Gaza Division. Buskila talked about babies who had been hung on clotheslines.
Really?
His remarks were, I can't get my underwear to stay on the clothesline, but somehow they got dead babies to stay on the clothesline. His remarks were cited by a host of Twitter personalities around the world. They hung babies from clotheslines, Kurt. Who'd he interview for that? Chevy Chase and the Three Amigos? We raped the horses and stampeded the women and hung the babies on clotheslines.
Just before El Guapo figured out he wasn't a member of the bandit gang?
According to a tweet from the Prime Minister's office, we just don't want to show you the proof. He showed the proof to Biden, but he didn't want to show it to anybody else.
Boy, this really puts Trump's Truth Socials in perspective, doesn't it?
Right? So Cohen wrote that he was later informed that the story was inaccurate, and he deleted the post. Why would an army officer invent such horrifying story? I was wrong. I don't know. I'll give you 3 fucking guesses.
This is a reporter who said this? Why would an
army officer
invent such a horrifying story?
We've been hearing about incubator babies being killed since the first Gulf War in 1991. Remember that? I don't. Maybe you're too young to remember that, but that's
baby on the floor.
That's how they sold the first war against Kuwait, or against Iraq in Kuwait, and they had a girl come and give testimony, and she said that they took babies out of incubators and threw them on the ground, and she was crying, and it was all made up.
She was a Kuwaiti princess or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How naive do you have to be to ask the question? Why would an army officer?
It's almost impossible, I would say. Like it. You can't be that much.
An army officer is telling a lie? Huh? Since when?
You're a reporter.
Didn't they take an oath? Next thing you're going to tell me cops are liars. Jesus Christ. According to sources including Israel's National Insurance Institute, kibbutz leaders, and the police, on October 7th, one baby was murdered. One. A 10-month-old Mila Cohen. She was killed with her father, Ohad, on a kibbutz. There's no evidence that children from several families were murdered together, rendering inaccurate Netanyahu's remarks to the U.S. President Joe Biden that Hamas terrorists took dozens of children, tied them up, and burned them and executed them. According to people from Zaka and another search and rescue organization, United Hastala, there were no bound bodies, but the number is not known. There were bound bodies, but the number is not known. The IDF spokesperson's unit does not deny that Lieutenant Colonel Busilka's remarks about babies strung up on clotheslines do not jibe with reality.
Some would say cartoonishly so.
They don't jibe, Kurt.
They didn't take the time to hang the babies on the clotheslines.
They don't jibe. Those stories of the babies hanging on clothes, they don't jibe.
Is that not how you say it?
They're not jibing.
Is it jive or
no,
jibe?
It's jibe.
It is.
Yes, they don't jibe with reality. What a way to put it. Hey, is that a lie? Well, it doesn't jibe. I'll tell you that.
I can't believe it hasn't already been used here in American media way more about jibing. About some lie that, like in a debunking.
The officer serves as a reservist operation officer. He arrived at a large number of scenes after the attack and saw many difficult sites as part of his duties. A lot of those sites he made up.
Is he blind? Was it? You mean it's difficult for him to see things? Maybe that's it.
Maybe that's it.
My glasses.
It was difficult. The details of his incident will be clarified with the officer, and it will be made clear to him that he should not describe events whose details are unclear and unofficial. The article goes on to debunk widely disseminated stories about burned bodies of children bound together, a pregnant woman who was killed and her abdomen cut open, a baby or babies who were burned to death in an oven, and the story spread by Benjamin Netanyahu's wife that a pregnant woman was abducted on October 7th and brought to Gaza where she gave birth. The woman in question was not pregnant and was released in a recent hostage exchange. All that stuff they made up.
To say somebody cut open a pregnant woman
that's like Manson.
You could take that one baby and plaster it all over the place and ride off that one. If you want a baby, that's like really upsetting. That's how much people don't care about Palestinians. You could take that one baby and but that we want to do some real foul shit to all of them.
That's right.
So these people, they're the kind of people that would cut open a pregnant woman. That's how bad. That's why
we
don't want to see anyone die.
That's why
but they're going to die. But we don't want to see it. We're going to not see it, in fact.
So
they had to do it.
So they had to first fund Hamas. They had to then ignore the warnings that they were going to attack. They had to then take the military away from the wall so they could enable that attack, so that they could use this terrorist organization, which they funded, as a pretext to go in and slaughter those people. But to slaughter them for real, they had to make up these stories about beheaded, babies burned in ovens, pregnant ladies cut open. I had to do that because what they were getting ready to do was way worse than anything you could imagine.
Well, not just that.
And they're doing it.
No, don't forget, not just that, they also had to lie and pretend no one responded for 7 hours because the conscripts fared so poorly.
That's right.
In battle. Well, that's they'd rather have you think that he released Hamas on purpose than the reality that they kind of aren't that good, because they're draftees.
So here's Benjamin Netanyahu spreading that lie. You want to see it? Here it is.
They took dozens of children.
Here he is talking to Joe Biden. Watch.
They took dozens of children, bound them up, burned them, and executed them.
Oh, well, I believe it. Bibi said it.
Bibi said it.
Hey, you should draw a cartoon picture of it, Bibi, to illustrate it.
You think? Here's Joe Biden repeating it.
Hamas has already said publicly that they plan on attacking Israel again, like they did before. Do everything, cutting babies' heads off to burning women and children alive.
So you would think that Biden would be pissed off at Netanyahu for lying to him and getting him to spread lies and look like an idiot, and
What?
certainly never believe anything Bibi ever tells him again.
Biden doesn't even remember talking to him.
But he's not pissed off at Netanyahu.
No.
He's not upset that he lied to him and that he spread lies told to him by Benjamin. I wonder why that is. Azaka commander Yossi Landau claimed he saw 20 mutilated, executed, and burned bodies of children piled on top of each other in Bari. He later claimed it was Kfar Aza. Haaretz says that only 3 kids were killed in all of Kfar Aza and 9 in all of Bari, and not all together.
So, I mean, you couldn't make hay with the actual dead children?
No, they
couldn't
had to
do that. Like,
Here.
look what we did with January 6th.
That's right.
Exaggerated that in something.
Here we go. Watch this.
How much work is left to be done?
I saw 20 children together with their hands tied in the back, and they were burned. They're shot and burned in piles.
20 children shot and burned in a pile, Yossi?
And 2 piles, right.
2 piles.
You know, I'm starting to resent that Israel gets to have more accurate news about what's going on than we do when we're sending the money over there. To like, what do we just get infomercials?
He also claimed he saw a sliced baby out of a pregnant Israeli's womb while bodies of 20 children were found tied. It just goes on and on.
Oh, this liar. This guy.
We saw the most horrific things. I saw in my own eyes a woman who was pregnant, 4 months pregnant. She was in a little village, a little kibbutz. They came into her house in front of her kids. They opened up her stomach. She was pregnant. They opened up her stomach, took out the baby, and stabbed the little tiny baby in front of her, and then shot her in front of her family. And then they killed the rest of the kids.
Wait, he saw them do that with his own eyes.
These are not regular enemies. These
and
are
they
not.
said, go on.
Did he say that? Did he say?
We saw the most horrific things. I saw in my own eyes.
Yeah.
A woman who was pregnant, 4 months pregnant.
What?
So Hamas was just letting you hang around watching them do this? I like how they always call it vicious attacks too.
Tell everyone at then they said, when they got done with this horrific thing, they said, now go tell the Republican Jewish coalition all about it. Go in peace and tell them.
They always have to say this vicious attack. An attack is vicious, but you don't have, that's like hyperbole, right? You never hear about there being a cheerful and festive attack, do you? Oh, look, they're pelting us with compliments.
He said, happy holidays as he cut.
So here's another one. So this is Netanyahu's wife says a hostage gave birth in Gaza. IDF can't find the evidence. I don't care. I still believe that Hamas are lying propagandists spreading disinformation to make Israel look bad. And I applaud the U.S. media for continuing to take all statements from Israeli government at face value and never question them.
Yeah, I mean, they sound like Ralph Wiggum from The Simpsons. And then the teacher and the principal kissed, and then they had a baby, and the baby looked at me like it's moron kids. He goes, "What? It looked at you?"
But I'm talking to some of the soldiers, and they say what they've witnessed as they've been walking through these different houses, these different communities. Babies, their heads cut off. That's what they said. Gunned down, families completely gunned down in their beds.
So that's where it started.
Yeah, I remember we played this.
Oh, we did already?
This chick saying, lying about this thing.
We
In
did
fact,
this?
Is this why we got in trouble? Like, got a strike?
Maybe this is why we got in trouble.
I think this is the one that you got a strike for.
Oh, okay.
As I mentioned earlier, about 40 babies at least were taken out on gurneys.
Turns off
Tiny gurneys.
tiny little baby gurneys.
We walk door after door. We kill a lot of the terrorists. We are stronger than them. They are aggressive. They are very bad. They cut head of children, cut head of women.
Yeah, this is unbelievable.
We were taken in today to see the aftermath. But what he had to say about that brutality that's being described as ISIS-style executions, he said very clearly that Hamas was cutting the heads off of people. Listen to his words.
So can I just say, it's always, they like to, so that's how they got us to go to war in Libya, in Syria, was they would show a video of a guy cutting someone's head off, right? And my joke that I used to do is, well, why don't they just blow their head off with a nice Christian bomb made in a Christian bomb factory?
Yeah.
That's how Christians do it.
One of those Blackwater bullets where they carve John 3:16 in the bullet.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Cutting someone's head off, that's mean. Christian bombs don't hurt you. They just hug you to death. But this still works.
We still use the gas chamber in some areas, don't we?
Yes. So they
didn't do that.
We blow people's heads off with bombs. Apparently, that's what Jesus would do.
How do you mow the lawn? Not.
We're doing live comedy shows in Oxnard, California, Venice, California, Palmdale, California, Omaha, Nebraska, Des Moines, Milwaukee, Lansing, Michigan, Bend, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, and Boston. Plus, we're going to put a date in Edmonton, Canada, plus Vancouver. See ya. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.